Proximity? What is proximity? Yeah. So we want to learn about proximity, and I originally titled this, as I'm working through it, a proximity warning. But I decided to change it at the last moment here. And do I live in proximity to life? Am I in closeness, nearness to life? Proximity, let's define it. So proximity means closeness, nearness, right? Alice, you don't live that far from me. So I don't know. I mean, it's not like walking across the street, but we're in proximity to one another. So proximity means closeness, nearness. But here's the way one of the dictionaries defined it. It said proximity, in fact, I'm just going to see if I can tell you. Yeah, I can't even tell you which dictionary it is. Proximity means nearness, one of the definitions of it, nearness in space, time, and relationship. The proximity of your relationships determine the quality of your life, how near, the time you spend with them, and that relationship. But vital, so necessary is our proximity to life and Him who is life and God alone. I'm F.C. Farwell. I share keys, life truths that launch us to our God-given destiny, that unlock doors that before would not open because we come in connection to the one who is life, which we're talking about today, considering today, because are we living in proximity, closeness in space, time, and relationship to God? One of the terms people use often is that we should live in intimacy with God. What are we talking about? We're talking about proximity in space, time, and relationship. Okay? So, my proximity to the world or to God is going to determine my nows, N-O-Ws, and my eternity. Last night, we had this like crazy cold snap. Or yesterday, it got quite cool. Now the house can hold its heat quite a while. And I went in a store, here it is 50 out, and it was like 80s in that store because their air conditioning has been broke for a while, and it still was retaining all the heat from the days before. I don't know how long it's going to take them to cool that place off, but they ought to open the doors and cool that place off. So in my home, it was cooling off. And I woke up in the middle of the night, somewhere at night, and said, you know what? I need to turn up on some heat, which I didn't want to do, but it was already down to 65, and that was cool enough. So wait, give me to 67, 68. I'll live with that. Nobody else is complaining yet. Okay. A submarine captain. A submarine is an underwater boat, right? It's like an eggshell, sealed in. And why don't they make submarines square, some other shape, generally speaking? Either round. The main hull is round. It may have that top flat part on it, but it's round because a round structure reinforces itself under pressure and expansion. So make a square plane or sub, you could put more people in it. But they're made round because it adds to the strength in a circular structure. Yeah, I don't know how much it is, but quite a bit. It's like in houses, they will support them. Usually the main supports are I-beams. If you just take a vertical I and use it for a beam and a sort of support, it will work, but it will want to twist or warp to one side. It'll collapse. And if you just put a like the L, the lower part of it or the top part of it, it'll just flex like nothing. But when you take an I-beam, which you have the layer on top and the layer on bottom, there's some real strength. Why? because the vertical part will keep from vertical stresses, and the flat parts will protect from horizontal stresses, which means that I-beam will have great strength. So the same circular, like an eggshell, right? Circular does the same thing, but in a circular thing, it provides increased strength all the way around because the strength is shared by the whole structure. So a circle has great strength in it in an object with, or a shell. All right. So the submarine captain knows what the safety depth is for a ship. He's likely won't go deeper than that, and possibly not near that safety depth, even though there's probably a safety factor where it will go so much deeper. They're not going that deep unless there was something extreme that called for it, right? A pilot of plane knows how fast he can go under normal conditions. In fact, from having piloted planes and flown hang gliders a lot, but piloting planes, there's a never, I don't remember the exact terms, but as far as like the symbols, like 10-4, good buddy. There's a never exceed speed, like NES, whatever it is, a speed they're never to exceed because the stresses on the plane on the aircraft can be too much. There's a top recommended speed under smooth conditions that is considered safe. Then there's a lower speed when you're in turbulence that is recommended. And you'll see that if you've ever been in a plane, they have those monitors, especially those international flights. They have monitors in them when you're in turbulence, or you may even notice it just listening to the engines, that a pilot in turbulence will usually slow down because the plane doesn't get stronger, but it can deal with the increased turbulence easier. You would never run the plane at the never exceed speed through turbulence. That would be idiocracy. Okay, now in a car, it said speed kills. Whoa. Is it speed that kills? How fast it goes? Well, they say when you're flying, it's not, what counts is the landing. It's how you hit the ground that matters. The rest of it's not so critical. Well, in a car, the faster you go, potentially the more likely you're to lose control of it or get in a situation where the handling of the car cannot just go there. You aren't able to, an object comes up and you cannot brake in that distance. You lose, the car exceeds its G-force ability with the type of tires it has on the grip of the road, and it'll lose the grip and go off the road. There's it's a hill climb really on Pikes Peak every year in Colorado. And every year they're trying to break records of how fast someone goes up that mountain. And not every year, but some years, like in one of the recent years, a person was killed on a motorcycle going over because there's hardly any guardrails. It's all cliffs. One side's the mountain, one side's the cliff. So how fast can I risk my life going up this mountain? Pikes Peak Challenge or whatever it's called. So people will push to the limit how fast they can go up that mountain. But if they exceed the grip of the tires on that road, there's something loose like sand or gravel in the road, it's wet, snow would be really bad, but it's wet or something, it's going to cause real havoc with making that race. And so, but again, people are every year try to push the limit, see if they can go a little bit faster. And there's videos of people doing it if that interests you. Anyway, so speed will kill because if we get in a situation, it cannot brake fast enough, it cannot turn and still grip the road, so on and so forth. I haven't ever told this. Here's an incident I've never told. So this is a long time ago in high school, we did the hooky thing. And I had my brother's car. Somehow he let me ride his Mustang, 71 Mustang to school. It had like a 302 Boss engine, which was moderately powerful. Well, I happened to be going really fast, way above the speed limit, and we hit a rise in the road. Now, normally at 45, 55, you up and you down. With the speed we were going, we got airborne in the car. Now, when the car came down, it didn't exactly line, for whatever reason, how it launched off that bump in the road, that rise, really a rise, not just a bump, but a rise. It launched up and it landed slightly sideways. When it landed, there was a little bit of, correction at very high speed. That was a very dangerous situation. But as you can see, we came out of that okay. Yeah. You read about that every year, when people graduate at some high school, someone gets killed. And I could tell some stories because I know some of people that did, even in the school, the school I went to, because they were going too fast on a turn or something. All right, yeah, I could tell some stories. And because I was a mechanic and worked on cars and sometimes raced cars, I could tell some stories. Now, Isaiah 1:3. Let's get to the word on this because we're talking about considering proximity, closeness, nearness in space, time, or relationship to God. We want to live in proximity to God. All right. The earth knows its owner, and the donkey its master's crib. But Israel does not know, my people do not understand. Isn't it that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God? All have walked astray. Alice, is this something we know? Others of you on there that haven't commented, they're listening or watched the replay. I get notes from some of you at different times. I really appreciate the notes about how these bless you and all. We just do our best to give life and to share life. So the earth knows its owner. That's interesting. The earth is inanimate. It's not alive. But that is interesting, isn't it? Now the donkey, its master's crib. Yeah, the animal, the ox, the donkey, the other animals, another record of this. They know where at night to head home. You just head them in a direction. Someone told me once they had horses or something, and they could be out in the pasture, and they just get them started in the direction home, and they would get there. But he says, his people, Israel, does not know. My people do not understand. Now that's crazy. Even animals know the direction to go to get home. But he says, God says, we don't know our direction to get home. There's some things I want to consider about proximity to the Spirit, to God, that can be life-changing. It says in Romans 8:11, the Spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you. If the Spirit of Jesus, the Spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you, I'll read it right, he will give life to your mortal bodies through the Spirit that dwells in you. But if I have something, I have a bicycle. The farther I am from it, it's not going to do me any good for any kind of transportation, is it? I have to be in very close proximity to that bicycle to make use of it for transportation. So having the Spirit puts us in nearness to God, right? In space, time, and relationship, and all those categories. But it's my response to his drawing near that determines the quality of my life. So my life, our lives, my life, see, I'm speaking to my life because we should be saying my life. Our lives, but my life. So say my life. My life will have life in the measure and to the extent of my proximity to God, nearness in space, time, and relationship. So healing here is being spoken of that the Spirit of God is working in my mortal body to give life to it. But if I don't live in proximity, intimate relationship with the Spirit, God, His Spirit within me, I'm not going to see much of that life, am I? So the Spirit is working for good. It's always working for good. Jesus Christ is making intercession for us, always works for good. The Spirit is working for good. Are we operating? Are we living in proximity and agreement with the Spirit? Now, how do I get my life, question, how do I get my life in close proximity to God. So the effect of the Spirit is a reality in my everyday life. Let me give you a great key. Proverbs 18:21 says this: death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. There's other verses about a spring of life and some things, but this is the one I got right now. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. So the way I speak is going to put me in agreement, which means the way I think, because words are the results of the seeds of our thoughts. So death and life, power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits, means that the way I then think and speak and enact is going to determine how much life is manifested in my body. How much life am I willing to receive of life words to live in agreement, proximity to the Spirit? Paul said this in Acts 17:24-25. He said, the God who made the world and everything in it, yeah, he's the Lord of heaven, the Lord of heaven and earth, does not live in temples made with hands. You can go to churches all day long and not meet God, and you can go to churches all day long and meet God, depending on what's going on in your proximity to him, not the building you're in. He's not served by human hands. This is verse 25 of Acts 17. God is not served by human hands. He doesn't need any servants, even though we serve him in word and deed and truth, right? But he doesn't need them. But he wants us because of his love for us. You know, to be wanted is a great power, motivator, something in life. And to be loved, that we are so wanted, desired, speaks something incredible to our hearts. So God is not served by human hands, though, as he needed anything, since he himself gives life and breath and everything. All that is, he gives. All right? We got that. All right. Now, what separates me from God? What separates me from God? Well, not having the Spirit, for one. But that's a big one. That's maybe the biggest, right? That is the biggest. Next comes sin. Sin is living a life in discord, not in proximity, but discord to God. I'm not in agreement with God. So sin is death. Why? The fruit of sin is death. Why is sin death? Because I'm living in separation from him who is life. Why is the Spirit life? Because it divinely connects me to him who is the Spirit, who is life. God is Spirit. And then when I have the Spirit, I'm saved into heaven's economy, reality, and in proximity, closeness, nearness to God, in space, time, all that stuff. Space-time continuum. Space-time and nearness because of the relationship, the proximity with him. To receive the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit, to receive the Holy Spirit puts me in alignment, as I said, in agreement with God. It puts us in that intimate proximity to him, and it releases life to us. John 6:63, Jesus said this: this is the Spirit which gives life. The flesh is no help at all. Some of them some of the versions say profits nothing, no benefit at all. The flesh doesn't do anything. Why? Because the flesh is decaying, it's dying. So I need a connection to life that is life, that will continue to live if I'm going to have true life and living. So the Spirit puts us in alignment with God and puts us in intimate proximity with him, and it releases the life God to us. Do we now see why we need to receive the Spirit of God? Right. The Spirit gives life. The flesh is no help at all. It's no benefit, no profit. The words I've spoken to you are spirit and life. That takes us back to Romans 8:11. because you've got to be speaking words of spirit and life over yourself. And this is why we're doing our next book coming up in about 3 weeks or so, is you've got to speak to yourself, right? Is that what it is, Alice? You know, probably. You've got to speak to yourself. Man, I might be getting it wrong. I could look it up. Someone there correct me. You've got to speak to yourself because you've got to speak words that are spirit and life to yourself so that what you give out is the life of the spirit to others. You know, we're going to finish up here pretty quickly, really quickly. At least that's what I'm saying, right? James 4:8 says, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. We knew from Acts that, and really the Acts 17, 24, 25, but there are other ones, that the eyes of the Lord go to and fro throughout the earth. We say he's omnipresent. He knows all things that are going on. Why doesn't he fix them? Because he asked you and I, thank you, Alice, for putting that. Yeah. The book title is You're Crazy If You Don't Talk to Yourself. Crazy. Well, people talk to themselves are crazy. Yeah, well, what are you talking to yourself? Are you speaking life or death? That's our book coming up in a couple weeks that we're looking at together about speaking life to ourselves. And I don't know where I was at. So good morning to you too. It's great to have you here. Is that Tammy? So I suggest if you've missed the beginning of this, go back and listen to the first few minutes and then you can decide what to do with that. So God is life. How I live in proximity, closeness, nearness to him in space, time, and relationship determines the quality of my life. And sin is separation from him because it's death. So the Spirit is life. Not living in sin divinely connects me to him by the Spirit within. And being saved puts me in that close proximity, heaven's proximity, with closeness to God. So receive the Spirit puts us in alignment with God and intimate nearness, closeness, proximity to him. And it's the Spirit that gives life. So James 4:8 said, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. God's eyes are everywhere present. He sees all that's going on, omnipresent. And the thing back to, well, why doesn't God step in and do something? Because he has declared that he has committed unto us, his children, the word of reconciliation. He doesn't go, Jesus has it now. Jesus had it. In the Old Testament, God was doing the reconciling. In the Gospels, Jesus was doing the reconciling. From Acts on, it's his people doing the reconciling. That's why it says we plant and water. God gives the increase. It's his working, but it's our speaking and ministering to ourselves and to others that allows the Spirit of God to go to work and to bring life to us. So my question today is, do I draw near to God day by day, moment by moment? Truly, he has drawn near to bring himself to us through Jesus Christ so that we can understand what he's like. And his choosing is to live in divine proximity to you and I. But am I living in that closeness, that nearness to God, in divine proximity with him, so that the words of life and words of spirit, the words of spiritual life, are affecting me physically, in my body, mentally, in the way I think, and in the life I live. So what comes out is I break captivity of any kind in my life and others I'm with, or I'm breaking it because we're coming in agreement in proximity with God. So the proximity warning of the submarine, the shell, you're going too deep, it's going to break. The proximity warning on a plane is you've exceeded its maximum operating speed, which you can do in a dive. The engines may not have enough power to do it. They might. But will I survive? In a car, it's how fast can I safely go around a turn. Now, that turn may say 25, but car, maximum speed, right? But your car may do, your car, it may say 25, but you can go 50 around it if it's not wet, if it's not got, let's say 35. So 25 can go 35. If it's not wet, it doesn't have sand on it, whatever. But they've given you a maximum recommended speed, but you may even go twice as fast because the grip of your tires, where the rubber meets the road, is strong enough, they'll just hang right in there. Might be some squealing. Now, what happens if I go 100 around that 25-mile-an-hour turn? I'm not going to be on the road. I don't know any car that's going to be on the road at the end of that turn because I've exceeded what's possible, and the car cannot handle it. So in my life with the Spirit of God that raised Jesus from the dead, has now given us life, that's giving life to my mortal body, to my thoughts, because I'll renew my mind, and to everything that I am and everything I do, am I living in closeness, nearness, proximity to Him who gives life to all that is. God bless you. Have an incredible day.